Yeah. No, but that's one of your things, though. By the way, we're totally off topic, but you don't care about cars. That's like one of your mantras. And people love it when you post about that.
I don't care about cars. I don't like having to spend a lot of money on something I don't care about. I get a ton of value out of my car. It's 9 years old. It's a Ford Fusion. I get value because I don't have to think about it ever. Like I was playing lacrosse in the front yard with my son, and like he just ripped a shot that just hit the side of my car, and like I didn't have to think two thoughts about it. I'd probably put a little dent in it. I don't care.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't cost much to maintain. It doesn't cost much to fill it up. Yeah, I don't know. But if I loved cars, I would have the nicest car in the world. I did something. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Maybe we should just talk about branding. Maybe we just go right into branding, bro.
Oh, as opposed to how to survive your first 5 years, just switch it up.
Let's just switch it up. Let's go.
All right. You want it? Let's do it.
Yeah, branding.
All right, we're in. I'm in.
All right, branding. This is what we're talking about. Everything is branding. Yeah, everything is branding.
What do you think your view on cars does for your brand? For example,
I think some people would look at me and say I'm cheap. Some who don't know me would say I'm not successful. Right? I think this is the thing. I kind of hate this about brokerage. People think, and maybe this is just the business world in general. People think if you're in sales, like you got to get a nice car. It's like there's absolute truth to people make, and you have a first impression with people. People make judgments about you, and the first impression, if you show up in a 9-year-old Ford Fusion, could be that this guy's been doing this a long time and doesn't have a nice car. Maybe he doesn't make a lot of money because he's probably not that good at what he does. I'm aware of that as a downside. So I think people feel compelled to have to buy a car as part of their brand to represent them. And I just am not the type of guy that I ever like feeling like I have to do something. And again, if I liked cars, I'd buy one. But it would be so inauthentic for me to drive around in a really expensive car because it's just not who I am.
What do you think people miss about branding? That to me is the best place to start with this subject. Because we're coming at it from the angle of everyone who's listening to this is thinking in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to build myself a personal brand as a broker, salesperson, on my own billboard, yada, yada, yada. So what are the mistakes being made? And then we'll back into talking through it.
I think it's Ken Ashley who said that you and I've talked about before, but like your brand is what people think about you before you walk into the room, right? It's like, it's what precedes you before you walk in the room.
That's right.
So, I think people miss a few things. One, everything you do is either enhancing or taking away from your brand. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't think it's kind of like your physical health. It's like it's like anything in life. You're either moving forward, progressing, improving it, or you're moving backward. There's just not a lot of, it's like your relationships. There's just not a lot of neutral ground. You can never really stay in one place too long. And when you're not pushing the ball forward, I think you're losing ground. So I think people miss that with their brand. But that being said, it's like a fine line. Like you have to be cognizant that everything you do is part of your brand, but you can't be some play actor in your life just walking around, just putting bull crap up everywhere.
Yeah. By the way, I want to get to this, the Plant Daddy tweet that you sent me or post. Yeah. That is the best expression of modern day branding that I've come across. But along the same lines as mistake, I agree with you 100%. The Ken Ashley thing, people make the mistake of thinking their brand is what they say it is. And your brand is actually how you make people feel.
Yeah.
The hardest part about branding is you have to go ask people, How do you feel about me?
Yeah. Right.
And that gives you a baseline foundation for building on, you're thinking through, how do I instill in people what I hope they feel about me, whether it's what I deliver, my character, integrity, I think, which are huge parts of a commercial real estate brand, like for us specifically. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's not just what you say. Like, it truly is how do people feel about me?
Yeah. It's almost the irony of when you're too intentional about a brand and you try and push something too much, that it kind of backfires. I think people kind of feel the opposite. Like, people know when you're trying too hard, and people have a crazy BS meter. Everybody can sniff it out.
Right.
So how does that help a brand? If you're trying too hard, you're making yourself look too big, you're inflating yourself to try and look great. Well, I'm telling you, we all operate in this way, that if anybody's reading it or seeing it and you're trying to make yourself look huge and important and successful, everybody is kind of like looking at themselves in comparison to you. Everybody looks through their own eyes and really cares about where they are. And if your brand is to make people feel inadequate because you're so great, you're not leaving a great impression with people.
Right.
I hate to say it.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. In depth, like, that's kind of why I love this project too. I think depth is a huge piece of this today. Authenticity, along the lines of what you were saying, because, if you think about 3 questions of, like, you're a potential someone that I want to share my brand with.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what I want to get across to you is who I am, what I do. The hardest thing to communicate after those 2 is why it matters. That's what I've been thinking about. I'm actually stoked we're talking about branding, because I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks. Okay, I know how to share who I am. I know how to share what I do and what I've done to specific people. But how do you share why does it matter? That's
why it matters to you or to your audience.
You tell me.
Or both. Yeah.
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 You tell me. I was thinking about our buddy. I think it's okay to share this because he's posted it publicly, but I was thinking about our buddy, Daniel Harold, who you've met. I've never met him. And this just popped into my mind when you were saying why it mattered, because he's like, a couple of his biggest posts are where he's kind of come out and said, hey, like, I was a broker. I went through this really difficult time, and I just hit 50. I've got a new team, a fresh spark. I'm really excited about this next phase or whatever. And, just like this, in a nutshell, he just shared why it's more than selling single tenant, triple net lease properties.
Right. Well, I mean, we're all people. We're all humans. There's, I don't know. There's probably a certain percentage of people that just eat, breathe, and sleep their jobs, and their egos are so formed around what they do for a living that it's their entire identity. But I don't think that's most people, honestly. I mean, I think that's a real small percentage of people. Most people have families. They've got stresses in life. They've got people in their lives with illnesses. They've gone through some hard crap. That's more the real life stuff that is universally relatable. And I think, you and I mean, certainly me, I probably talk about that stuff too much, right? But it's the stuff that I think about. Like, I just don't want at the end of my days to be like, yeah, I was a great industrial real estate broker. It's like, if that's my legacy, it's for me, no judgment against other people, but for me, that doesn't float my boat. But if I'm honest, authentic, try and be real and connect with people, I've got some friends that are dear friends that I was connecting with this week, and we were talking about some hard stuff going on in their lives. And I was like, I got hung up the phone. I'm like, that was probably the most rewarding part of my week. Just that hour-long conversation I had. That's the stuff.
Right.
So you try and get that across in your brand, because for me, it's like, well, that's who I am. That's who I want to be.
Right. Yeah, you're living that. You're actually doing it. I love that. I really do. I think there's also a piece of me, you know, and I don't exactly know how to say this with, and I know you agree with this. It's not like a controversial point, but it's like, I want people to understand that I love this. Like, I love deal making. You know what I'm saying?
You do.
You do too.
And I love that you love it. I love that you love it.
I love that you sent me a huge lead that you just got off of LinkedIn or Twitter. Someone said, I follow you, Sean. I want to buy some monstrosity warehouse. And I'm like, yeah, same thing happened to me, but it was a 1,800 square foot dance school.
Was that real? Were you serious about that?
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, I saw your stuff out there. Can you help with a lease? I was like, you know, maybe I'm referring most of the leases that come to me nowadays. I have done a ton of leasing, but way more in this investment sale world. But I was like thinking this could be something really cool. But it is really cool, but it's small.
Yeah.
It's a small thing.
Well, I did have a text this morning. I mean, it's 7 a.m. Saturday morning, and a text randomly comes in. Hey, I'm looking to buy a building. I follow you on Twitter. I'm like, wow, okay.
So
we're meeting on Monday.
And you have to share. I think I get a referral on that. Was it a podcast thing he saw, or was it just your personal account? Be honest, please.
Yeah. Anybody listening to this gets a piece of the pie. Yeah. Just kidding. But think about that. Like, this is what we're talking about. This is branding.
Right.
This is new frontier, new real estate for sales professionals is social media. It's capturing attention.
Yeah.
You meet your prospects where they are. Well, they used to just sit in their offices near their phones. Okay.
Right.
But that's not where people are now. You used to meet them. You used to join like the Kiwanis Club, or I don't know, whatever, you know, these social clubs that people would join, or you join a country club. That used to be like the gold mine. Hey, if you could get into a country club, and you know what, that still is a thing. You meet people in your proximity to you, and you build relationships with them, and that's awesome. But that is an avenue where it used to be one of only a few. Now there's a bunch more avenues, and a lot of that is in the digital world. And so I choose to put myself out there on LinkedIn and Twitter, YouTube, other places, because you try and meet your prospects where they are. You're just out there and you're casting a wide net. You hope they come to you. Now, you don't want to attract people that are coming to you because you're putting a fake version of yourself out there, because you're going to attract the type of people that you don't enjoy being around. So you just be authentic.
That's very true.
And then people who resonate with that will come and talk to you and say, hey, I'm looking for a building to buy. Can you help?
Right. And isn't it funny too that consistency is what you're after? Okay. So if you're building a personal brand, you're using a digital tools, you know, to get the information out there, you got to be consistent. And then guess what? The next level is the more consistent you are, then you step into this realm of danger that you're just wallpaper. Like, okay, I'm just there every day. And then you feel like, all right, I have to then reinvent myself all the time. And so I often in my efforts to do this have to just come back to, bro, just share your authentic self.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You know what I'm saying? But tools help, like mediums help. No, not a ton of people out there are doing video.
No.
So you can say the same thing in a different way. And, you know, 2 to 5 years from now, that most people will be on video, I think.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, branding as opposed to marketing, branding as opposed to outbound sales efforts. Branding is just a very highly leveraged form of outbound sales efforts. It's a highly leveraged form of cold calling, in that you're putting it out there for thousands and thousands of people to see. Instead of me going after the one, if I'm standing in front of an industrial building saying, I'm going to go in there and talk to that guy or gal who owns this thing. This is me just throwing it out to the world and hoping I meet that person and whoever else on the street, maybe on Twitter, maybe on LinkedIn, and they may know of me. So yeah, you and I mean, we are running after and trying to capture available real estate in the social media world by doing what we're doing. Not a lot of people in our space do this.
Best practices, fun things. Couple of the things I've seen you do that I think, people listening to this, I'm looking for a couple takeaways. There is no substitute for thought leadership, right? I mean, true, like, obviously you could become wallpaper by every day saying, here's the top 3 things you need to know as a broker or whatever. However, I've learned a ton from, like, LinkedIn is definitely a learning community. Mm-hmm. And that's something to lean into. Next, and jump in, stop me, but some people,
one
and I
note
don't
on
think
that. One
go
note
ahead.
on the first one. Just don't call yourself a thought leader.
Right.
That comes off the wrong way. I hate to say it.
That's
People
right.
are out there doing it. Anyway, continue.
Right. If possible, to craft your message in such a way that people want to cheer for you, that you're easy to cheer for.
Yeah.
This to me is fascinating about marketing.
Yeah.
Like you probably had a couple people jump into your mind that, on LinkedIn or whatever, that we know that it's just like, they're just easy people to cheer for, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. It's like friendship. You cheer for your friends,
Right.
So you see people that you connect with and jive with, and you want to root for them. Yeah, for sure.
I get passionate about raising the bar for the industry is another angle I would take at it, because I think it's a service oriented posture to take. Much better than, like, I'm going to go to a networking event, every single day, whatever. Again, it's the why. Mm-hmm. Why would you meet professionals in your community? Why would you be a part of CCIM or that sort of thing? Mm-hmm. It's because you want to raise the bar on the whole industry, which is a great thing.
Yeah, great angle.
Let me ask you this, Sean. How do you know when a marketing idea or a branding idea is good? Like, what's your tip? What occurs to you to say, like, okay, this feels right. This is good.
You mean like an individual post, or?
Yeah. A post, an idea, or depending on how it's shared.
I thought about this week. For me, I always I just go when the moment of inspiration hits, I just go and do it. Right. And so that the topics become pretty varied, but, that I found when I feel inspired and I just get that feeling inside, like, okay, yeah. And then whatever I'm writing, whether it's a post for social media or an email to clients, marketing email, or even an idea for like a postcard that we would send out, I just go with it right there on the spot, kind of drop everything, and it effortlessly flows out. And that's the stuff that gets the best engagement across the board. So, how's that for a strategy? Wait till you have the unction and then just drop everything and go after it. I think that's the only metric that I use right now for whether or not it's something we're going to pursue.
Yeah. For me personally, it'll scare the hell out of me. Like the idea will be like, ooh, should I do that? I mean, the stuff that gets the least traction in my life is the stuff that's like, well, this will be fine.
Yeah.
Like this will do okay. But when I started on YouTube, that honestly scared me. Like that was like, this is weird. Are people going to watch me? Is this dumb? Like you kind of, you felt exposed and not great on camera, and you're getting used to it. And so, yeah, I think good ideas that are truly different, they will scare the hell out of you, and you'll feel like you're taking a risk.
Well, I think you lead into a really good point in that, we talked about in the beginning, there's no neutral ground. You're either enhancing or detracting from your brand.
Right.
And so practically, how does that look when you throw up that post that is just a just sold tile, or forward an article, or just something real generic where you're just real safe and just kind of contributing to the noise? You're not enhancing your brand. You're not staying neutral. You're detracting from it. People learn to tune you out, right? And I think when you look across the landscape of a place like LinkedIn, there's a lot of that. I think people, to your point, are not operating in the things that scare them out of fear. And, LinkedIn especially, it's like, this corporate veneer, this social media landscape that's just got this shiny corporate veneer on it. And so everybody's scared to step out, but you're actually hurting yourself. You might be better just not to be there than to just put up stuff that's just white noise.
Right. I know. Yeah, that's definitely true, and probably a little hard to swallow. But
for some, yeah.
Overall, it's like the positives of this. Again, I think I said this earlier in this conversation, but one of the things I would encourage anybody listening is don't go negative. Don't go negative about the market.
No way.
Don't go negative about people.
Other people. Oh my gosh.
I just encountered this situation out there. This is why this has been top of mind, where it was like a negative oriented post and it kind of blew up in the comments, and it's not good. And so horrible. I say stay positive, be a storyteller as our lives are more and more consumed with AI and robots and non-human things. Master the art of storytelling.
100%.
Like that skill, I want my kids to do that almost as much as like learn calculus.
100%.
So, and we're never, this gets into like the Donna Miller story brand stuff, which I love. I'm very into,
Same.
But it's like in the storytelling world, we're never the heroes. Like as a service provider, you're not the hero. You are a guide. And as a guide, you're just getting the main character to the place that they want to be.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about every post.
I love it. If you could do that, I mean, it is mastering a craft. It's a skill. And that the beauty of a place like LinkedIn or Twitter is you get to work on that skill, and you get to iterate, and you get better over the years of doing it. And yeah, for sure. I'm glad you mentioned it. Never go negative. You gain nothing by going negative. I mean, truly you lose ground, or you just attract people that resonates with, and I mean, go for it. Do that if you want. But yeah, I don't think I would go negative. And then, maybe one last comment for me on the branding thing. Don't feel like you have to do social media. You don't have to do social media. Like, do what works for you. You went to a conference, and for 2.5 days, you schmoozed it up and met with a bunch of people. Like, I don't do a lot of that stuff because it doesn't work well for me. And you know what? And even there, I'm enhancing or detracting from my brand. So when I show up at something that I struggle with, and then I'm just kind of awkward and kind of quiet, and I don't connect well with people, I mean, it's not a great look, honestly. I don't like the big networking schmooze things. I do love one-on-one or one-on-a-few type of coffees and lunches and breakfasts. I do a ton of those, right? So do what works for you. I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert. You should be at those conferences. I don't think I should be.
We should do it together. That's we need the yin and yang there together. That's and everyone listening should know how freaked out Sean was that 3 people stopped me in a conference of 6,000 people. They're like, we listened to Sales Life. And I was like, really? You do? They're like, yeah, we recognize you. And we love what you and Sean are doing. And one guy was like, this is true story. People will love this. One dude was like, I'm so glad you're giving Sean like this platform. It's so good for me, like, to hear him answer the questions and stuff. And I was kind of like, that's a huge piece of this, but it was funny because, dude, I don't care. I just do. You would think it was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really special. Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Love your last comment. Mine would be probably think how you can bring people into the conversation. Okay, so this is my new, I want to get people deeper into my deals. And the way that this has always been done which we do this too, is like a deal story, but it's like, how did the conversation go from the seller early on? What was the issue? What was the problem? How did we step in? And you kind of see that dialogue. So I really want to win business by inviting people into those conversations, letting them experience them a little bit. So I'm experimenting with, can you do that with video? It's the hardest thing to get is a testimonial. Yeah. And what's hilarious is there's some psychological effect to projects where like the end of it is always the most important part. And that's what people remember. Like you can work for 6 months on a deal and something will happen before closing. And it's like, that's what the client remembers. But then once it's over, it's just gone from their mind. And that's when you need the testimonial. So we've tried to templatize this or whatever and get it to them. But I want to do what we're doing with improving the sales life for owners potentially. How do you get people into the conversation?
Dude, it's so smart to say that. As you're saying that, I realize I don't do that enough around deals, like telling the story of the deal. But maybe that's what you and I work on, like crafting a story in a way that is engaging and succinct and not talking about a per square foot number and a cap rate, right? That's a great challenge. I'd love to do more of that. We should talk about
I've got some coming up. I've got one in particular coming up that I think will be cool to really talk about with you, because I've been able to, it's not every deal, but I'm working on one right now that was like, I've been able to help someone, like truly help them. And again, this is a owner, this is not a corporation or business. This is an owner that's in a spot that needs to get out. And dare I say that, like, it's been kind of a God thing a couple of times. Like I've felt like I've ended up in these situations where I can uniquely help someone. It's cool. It's part of my like career journey and story. But when you hear that conversation, it's like, wow, this was a true service. It really helped. So
yeah, I love it, man. Good job.
Okay, we started with how to survive your first 5 years. We didn't make it. We switched topics mid-sentence. Was this amateur hour?
I mean, that's on me. That's clearly
these first-time podcasters. I don't get it, but no, I think we covered a ton that's just really good. And like in the end, don't let yourself be wallpaper. Like if you're passionate about this, get out there and while being positive, take a risk and tell your story.
Perfect summary. I love it.